We get the sword that Alir used in the prologue as our reward for winning the mock battle, and Lumera presents us an ornamental ring that was meant for our birthday before we slumbered, yet we decline as Alir is not comfortable with the idea of receiving it without his memories, and so we make a pinky promise with Lumera to talk again in the morning. Lumera starts off chapter 3 by spewing more red flags while Alir continues to lament his memory loss, and then we have a brief dream of what can be assumed to be a past memory, with a lone Alir surrounded by flames and whose hair is fully red. That is approached by Lumera questioning this scenario, with Alir responding with a devilish grin. We then wake up surprised at the dream, which causes Marth to pop out and show concern for his partner. Then we question Marth about our past character, to which he becomes hesitant, selective with his words and redirects the conversation to remember things slowly, which successfully convinces Alir before a sudden tremor pushes us to action. As we go out, we reunite with the stewards who brief us on the enemies who broke into the castle with ease, and are making their way to the ring vault that is currently being defended by Lumera, and thus we band together to push through the enemy ranks to rendezvous with the Queen. So we begin the map with Vander and Fram mercifully returned to us, and bringing the casualty counter back to 0. A brief glance of the map shows that we are heavily outnumbered, with Pegasus Knights hanging around just beyond the pillar boundaries. My initial manoeuvre is to focus on the left side of the map, so I send Vander toward the lance unit, and thankfully he doesn't miss a 90% plus hit rate for a third time in a row. This is followed by Alir, who I opt to Emblem engage with Marth to guarantee the lance's defeat. Clan follows and I have Fram do the same, but also uses Chain Guard in case the swordsman targets Clan. Fortunately, my fears were unfounded as the swordsman foolishly targets Vander, who, thanks to Fram's assist, is guaranteed a devastating retaliation. Afterwards, the remaining enemy units tighten their encirclement, causing me to panic for a bit until we are graciously granted reinforcements led by
the Crown Prince Alfred of Faraway is here to help,
who puts me into a second panic since they enter the map as green units, though thankfully we are given control of them after Alfred finishes his introduction. And so I start by picking out Etier, who on first impressions has a voice that's a mismatch with her looks. She uses a bow, a weapon type that has a significant advantage against flying enemies, so I have her mercilessly snipe the flyer closest to her. Then I have Alfred charge and break the swordsman straight ahead of him. Next up is Boucheron, who's, you know what, he's okay, and introduces the backup unit, an ally that can immediately follow up on others' attacks if the target is also in the backup unit's range, and all I do is move him forward and wait. In contrast, Alir pushes onward and slays one of the approaching flyers with a Lodestar rush. Clan takes out the swordsman Vander had weakened earlier. Vander takes out the broken swordsman. Fram sticks behind Alir, and thus we have successfully mitigated the immediate threat to a mere 3 Pegasus Knights that each make the safest moves they could on Alir and Etier. To make up for his inaction in the previous turn, I have Boucheron take initiative on the flyer next to him. Etier then finishes it off, and then Fram heals her for a job well done. I then deliberate for a while on how to take out the flyer that's hovering over the rubble. With the current positioning, Alir would deal 15 damage, Vander deals 18, and Clan deals 4. The issue is that we can only have either Alir or Vander take up the space below the Pegasus Knight, while Clan takes an adjacent position to attack 2 tiles away. 15 plus 4 and 18 plus 4 are not equal or greater than 23. With it being what it is, I opt for Vander to take charge. Then I move Alir 1 tile to the right so Clan can bond with both Vander and Alir when he makes his attack. But when I move Clan over, I notice that he can finish off the Pegasus Knight all of a sudden. Confused, I have a look over Alir's skills, and find that he boosts the damage of adjacent allies, which is just what we needed, and so Clan decides to go overkill and the lone Pegasus Knight retaliates for their fallen brethren. Now that we're mostly safe, I take the unnecessary risk of having Clan attack while still being adjacent to the enemy, while Alir deals the finishing blow. Fram proceeds to heal her brother, and we push everyone else forward, with Vander and Alfred taking the vanguard to aggro the remaining aggressors and soften them up, which they successfully do. With how far behind Clan is, I have him eliminate the weakened swordsman, which opens a spot for Boucheron to take out the weakened Pegasus Knight. I then move Vander next to the boss and enforce a choke point while Alfred breaks the unit on the left side. Etier sneaks off to oust the remaining Pegasus Knight, and Alir strikes at the softened swordsman, which is finished off by Alfred on the enemy phase. The enemy archer makes their final move by taking a pot shot at Alfred while the boss Abaim attempts to advance past the Vander wall. Thanks to the boss's abysmally low speed and resistance, Clan would be able to finish off the boss, so instead I try to farm a bit more EXP by sending Etier to poke the boss, move Vander to attack the archer, send up Alir who I find is unable to damage the boss in his unengaged state, so I send over Boucheron instead while Clan deals the final blow, and we complete the map with Alfred stabbing the bow unit. After routing the enemy, we make our way into the ring vault and confront another enemy who just sneers at us with the energy of a sassy little child, who then throws off a powerful lightning shower that Lumera takes in our place, inflicting a fatal blow. Then the sassy little child kindly asks for the emblem rings, to which Lumera responds by kindly asking the enemy to leave, which is enough to make the child run away despite their overwhelming advantage, and they drop a mysterious stone on their way out. Finally, we have an emotional scene that makes me feel like I've somehow skipped a few chapters, a moment that feels completely unearned and thus makes the scene more comedic from my point of view. So, with her long dying breath, Lumera tells us that the invaders had the Fell Dragon's power, gives us the Ring of the Holy Knight, and requests us to gather the rest of the emblem rings.